we're NetHopper. We have an enterprise Gen AI unified and search and insights platform, and I'm going to talk about it for about 10 minutes, Paul, and then do a demo and then take any questions you have. We're a seed-funded startup trying to solve what I believe is a really important business problem. If you could do anything for me on the call, it would be to consider using this platform, being a reference customer, kick the tires. That will only help us build a better product. Our vision is that all of the AI things that we're seeing in the public will make its way into the workforce, and that there'll be a hyper-productive workers with instant search and insights across, and this is the important part, all work data for any task. So Paul opened up and said, we're really interested in sales agents and marketing agents. I think that in many ways, what caught fire in the AI world, the special that Hopper did, was with a guy who made a chat on all the public's world data, Sam Altman. And I think the same thing's going to happen in our workplace, and I want to talk about that. So what we do is we make a platform to make that happen. It's a personal chat for all workers to unify and search all their data. And there's a couple of key differentiators. One is that it's operated in a private IT environment, because when you're using all workers' data, the security implications get very high, go way up. How do I get rid of that thing at the top of the screen? I guess it'll kind of go away. So the problem we solve is wasted time searching for fragmented data at work. SaaS did this to us. It did it to me. It did it to everybody I know. My information is no longer in one place. It used to all be on my hard drive. Now it's in OneDrive, it's in Google Drive, it's in Slack, it's in Confluence, and many, many other places, GitHub. Workers, according to McKinsey, are spending 19% of their work week searching for and gathering information. That means 1 out of every 5 worker cycles in the US and beyond are spent on this. EGAI Unified Search fixes this problem. If you can find a way to give AI access to all of your SaaS data and be you when it does it, then you can remove this time, and you can take this 19% and eliminate 90% of the waste, because as we all know, if you've ever used ChatGPT, it helps you find and get insights and even create data way faster. But just solving the search problem is a huge economic benefit. To put the value to numbers, this is pretty simple math. If you take an example 500-person company at an example white-collar average pay scale, that means just on search, this 19% shown here, companies are spending $9.5 million, this 500-person company, searching for data at work. That's a lot of money if you can remove 90% of that waste, which means there's an $8.5 million, $9 million potential savings to solve this problem. And the things that people are doing at work can largely be solved by Gen AI. It just needs the data. So our solution does this, but no matter what solution you have, and there are a number of them in the universe, they have a couple of main components. One is the enterprise in the middle, the enterprise AI platform itself. But I would say much more important than that is all of the data sources that you have. As I mentioned before, in CRMs, emails, ERPs, ticketing systems, Git code creation tools, collaboration tools, drives, the data lakes, and data warehouses that you've created to date. Your data is everywhere. Your workers' data is everywhere. And it's a matter of having your workers using their SSO to log in to our platform. And it, on behalf of them, since they're SSOing into all of these platforms, goes out and gets its data, builds an individual AI pipeline for each individual worker so that they search only their authorized data when at work. So there's a couple of ways to do this. I'm going to demo that platform in a second. One of the questions becomes, and I know Paul was keen on answering on this, might drive some Q&A in a few minutes. What are some of the questions that enterprises, companies, businesses should be asking of their Gen AI solution providers? I'm not going to go through all of them in detail, but one good question is, what data are you going to use from my enterprise? A really good answer is all the same data that your workers are accessing. A not so good data is a portion of your data. Only the stuff in Microsoft, only the stuff that your workers upload. To have that full immersive corporate search and brain, you need access to all of the data. So part of it won't do. Where does the data go is another great question. And what do you do with it? The answer in our situation, or I think a good answer, is the data doesn't go anywhere. It's just staying within your walled garden in IT. And what are you going to do with the data? I'm going to do nothing with it because I don't even have it. Whereas sometimes the answer comes back, I don't have a lot of information on what I'm going to do with your data. I can't point to it, but trust me, we won't train our model with it. I think there's you can decide whether this works for you or not. But this is some questions to ask. If you want a comprehensive list of questions to ask, I did this earlier today. Go to ChatGPT and ask, compare enterprise ChatGPT versus NetHopper private AI deployments, focusing on key enterprise priorities, and you'll get an 11 category list of when one's appropriate versus the other, pros and cons. So with that, I'm on to I have a demo that I can show you of our platform. I have a demo system set up for our internal use, and it will show you a ChatGPT-like experience. It's going to have my data at work. It's going to have an AI model that we chose for it. There's actually a couple, like Paul just showed that multi-AI model list. We have a multi-AI model. So there's LLM choice. It's going to run on the company's VPN, like our company's VPN in this case, and it's going to operate inside our walled garden. So there's no API use to public API anywhere, and there's also no tokens because it's running on our infrastructure. So we're not renting anything. So with that, I jump right into the demo. Paul, do you want me to do that now, or do you want to take Q&A before I jump into the demo?
Why don't you ask, how about a few questions? If you have a question, raise your hand and I'll call. We've got a quiet group tonight. Lucinda had one question online. Go ahead, Lucinda. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know that one of the things that people have been kind of losing their mind over with MCP is MCP, and one of the things that that offers, in addition to kind of being able to use different LLMs, but it also does have the ability to connect to your various data sources within your company. So just, yeah, a question about that. And then also, Microsoft has their own co-pilots that allow you to access all of your various Microsoft data, and Google has their, Gemini Assistant Star that offers to handle all of your data. And I know that's not all the data that's in your company, but I mean, I think those companies would start to expand from there. So two things. Number one, what about MCP? The other one is, what about entrenched large players that might seek to expand?
Yes, great question. I'll start with question 2 first because it feeds question 1. I think Google Gemini is great. We're a Google SSO company, and I'm using Google Drive all the time, and I see Gemini and I use it inside my Google Docs. It has Google data. I don't know a way to give it non-Google data yet today. I'm not sure if they have a vested interest in offering a product that connects to all other SaaS sources. They might have a vested interest in MCP, which I'll talk about in a second. I think Microsoft is the same thing. They have OneDrive and other products that I could use Copilot to comb. I could, of course, also give my data to Azure and then use Azure AI with the help and benefit of ChatGPT. So there's lots of different ways to do it. I would say if your goal is all of the data, there needs to be an intermediary, somebody who's unifying that data, somebody who's getting access to all the data so that they can behave like a person. And I think this is necessary in an agentic world. It's necessary just for simple search. It's also necessary for insights. It's necessary for generating proper content. And it's also necessary for building agents in the future. So I think getting access to all your data is foundational no matter what you want to do in corporate business AI. MCP is interesting. I don't know what's going to happen with it yet. I don't know if anybody does, but in a world where all of these services offer MCP compatible clients and I'm able to connect them all up, I might be able to get a similar experience as to what I'm just talking about, but it involves a level of maturity in that marketplace that may not happen quickly. It may not happen at all. And really, I'm excited in the beginning, I think the big thing about AI, the reason it took off is all of us as humans can directly experience it. I can't make, I have no crystal ball on MCP. I just know that if you give, and I've tried hundreds of models at this point, if you give models data, you'll be shocked at the results. And that sentence didn't have the word MCP in it. So I don't know what's going to happen with it. We'll have to change as we find out. But the sooner we can give a solution, customer solution that just accomplishes the mission of search and insights on their work data, the better. If it involves MCP, great. If it doesn't, there's ways to do it now without MCP.
Great. Go ahead, Raymond.
Oh, the one question I had was around, well, actually, but a second one just came up. But the first one was, how do you control what employees deal with? Like, I was thinking of myself in the course of working, like I have access to a lot of different resources, and some of those are mingled with my personal stuff. It's one thing to say within the firewall, like, this is what you have access to, and these are the LLMs you can use, and this is the data. But I know in my work life, there's a blending. So how do you control that? And then the only other thing I was going to say was MCP's got a lot of has a lot of force behind it right now because there is a standard required there. So I would say stay open to extensibility.
Definitely. We'll keep a close eye on it. The data control question is a really important one because at the onset, even the slide I just showed earlier, I'll zoom up to it a second. If the task is just to give 20, 30, 80 different sources of data to AI, there's one level of difficulty to say, I'm going to give my Snowflake to AI. I'm going to give my Salesforce to AI, but that's actually not nearly good enough. Or I'm going to give my email to AI. You can't just take a dump of all companies' email, give it to AI, and then hope that nobody asks, what's the highest paid employee in my company? Because the CEO has that in his email somewhere. You have to respect the individual auth rights of a company, and companies have been engaged in that for a long time. So if when you sign into your enterprise AI platform with your SSO or multiple SSOs, you must use that data to go access these systems. And you must build a Gen AI pipeline. I'll call it a RAG pipeline on a per person basis inside that company on a per SSO basis in order to make sure that nobody can either access or get insights to data that's not theirs. So it's not just a matter of bulk uploading this data somewhere. It's a matter of respecting the authorization boundaries a company has set up on a per employee basis. And if you do that, when I log into this enterprise AI system, I can't ask for a list of salaried employees. I can. The only way I'd ever get that back is if I'm already authorized to access such data somewhere in one of these systems. So I think that's a big part of how to give data to AI is you have to do it along the boundaries of the auth that's already been considered at your company.
Great.
Thanks,
Go ahead, Bob, and
thanks
then
for that. Yeah, thanks for that. Well, I think I was meaning more about employee discipline. Like how do you ensure that employees keep their work data separate from their own personal data? How do you ensure that?
Well, it's difficult to do because, like we've been asking people, no, use Confluence for this. No, use Slack for that. Nobody ever listens, or some people do, but somebody's not going to. I had somebody recently tell me, don't send me any more texts. I'm not sure what work knows about. So if you accidentally commingle your personal and business data, it is difficult to unwind. And if the auth system of record has access to that data through your work SSO, I'm not sure I can or our company can do anything to not access that data. I think it's just good employee hygiene to not commingle their work and business data. But if it's authorized at work, we would find it in a search of data that's connected to the system.
yeah, go ahead, Bob.
So yeah, you answered, I guess, one of the last. I put a whole bunch in the chat there. The role-based access controls. It sounds like you started thinking that, but it also strikes me as that your whole data lake and all of your data strategy has to reflect this. The revision history, the ability to delete things. We don't do that anymore. Traceability, transparency, everything has to be available if you're going to use a system like this. It also sounds to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, is you're generating all the data lookups consistently. So you're not training the model on these unified data sources. You're going out every single time a request is given to do that search. Is that correct? And if so, how do you deal with data outages?
That is correct. So we have a RAG pipeline-based system whereby we're indexing all of the data that individuals have. And when they ask things at their chat, we are first doing an index search of potentially augmented data and submitting that to the LLM. So in doing that, we just have to make sure that the RAG pipeline, that the data used to create the RAG pipeline that has been indexed is up to date. And that can be done. We started with curating an object storage bucket for every user, but we are moving to a place where we don't actually need a copy of the data. We can reach back out to these sources, these SaaS sources, to go get all and update and keep near real time the RAG pipeline that allows them to search all their data.
Chris, we'll let you get back to the demo. Just one quick one. So Glean is in this space. Is that a head-to-head competitor, or do you see them tangential, what you guys are doing?
Yep. If I had to name one, that would be it. There's a few others, and they're quite a bit better capitalized than us. But that's a competitor of ours. We think we have some advantages in the privacy aspect. I specifically don't talk about what's behind that black box on the screen, because I don't want to get too much into an infrastructure, LLM, GPU, which cloud conversation, but we're completely multi-cloud and can deploy in the customer's cloud of choice. Often close to where a majority of their data is. So there's some benefits to that, both in privacy and performance.
That's great. Thanks.
Let's see, I should do the demo. All right. I got to get behind this. I'll wait for it to go away for a second. Come on. Okay. I'll start here. So this is running on our VPN, chat.privateai.kops.dev. I'm going to sign in. I'm not doing a Google sign in here, but I'm going to sign in with a non-SSO account. Come on. All right. So what you see here is an interface. It doesn't look too different than ChatGPT or Grok or any other, but it is not using the APIs to any public AI service. Instead, it's using APIs to a set of open source models that are running in a private cluster controlled by us. And we get a list of models and we can add models. Here you got the Llama models from running from Facebook, an 8 billion parameter. You've got a Gemma, 1 billion parameter Google model. You can add hundreds of others. Actually, there's probably thousands at this point. Anything on Hugging Face or a Llama, you can download and use. The Llama, it's shocking how good an 8 billion parameter model can run on a couple $1,000 GPU if it has the right data. And I'll show you a little bit about that. So when you come into my account, there are some settings in the connections section. There's some settings about how to connect to different sources, all the ones I showed on that data unification page. Not all of them. We don't have all of those supported yet, but we're working toward it. Once you connect to a source, you can come into the workspace and you can see the knowledge. For example, I have a knowledge here of my Google Drive, and I can open my Google Drive to see what it looks like, but I can also just come through my Google Drive and I can sort through it here. I think somebody asked a question, or maybe it was a post I was thinking about from Paul about data quality, good data in, good insights out. What we have here is the ability to, Google doesn't have it on their drive, so there's no place to add it there. But once it's in our system, we have the ability to note the important things or the do not use add tag. So you can mark any parent folder, subfolders, and documents with metadata, which will be used in the RAG pipeline later, to recall content. So in this way, you can do some amount of data cleaning. Of course, it's not the snowflake level amount of data cleaning, but it's something that I, as a person, this will influence the pipeline results that I get back on an AI search. So you can see here I have a number of documents. If I were to go and look at some of these documents, for example, in a workspace, there's also the support for knowledge bases. I have a supply chain knowledge base and others that individuals can curate. So for example, if I go into, I'll start a new chat and I'll say, this is my funny for the day, my attempt at humor. So laugh if you can. What is a TPS report? If anybody has ever seen Office Space, they'll find that kind of funny. Let's say I'm a worker and I'm looking for a TPS report. So of course, this llama model has some data. It's a little chatty. So I'll use the context window to keep it short and sweet. TPS is a fictional type of make work report at a company in Office Space where people are just generating TPS reports all day. Now, if a company like NetHopper were actually making TPS reports, and I have some in my Google Drive, I can put myself in a certain knowledge base mode, like supply chain mode, and then I can say again, give me a list of NetHopper TPS reports. So I'm finding one or more TPS reports that we have in our Google Drive, and then I can say things like, I will see the references that come up, and if you're an AI power user, you'll see I have a TPS report for May. It has a 80% hit rate on the question I just asked it, and I can open up the TPS report and look at it. Now, that in effect just saved me time looking for the latest TPS report. I didn't have to wonder whether it was on Confluence or Slack or my Google Drive or in an email somewhere. It just went out and found it. And now create a TPS report for June. Now, if I was searching for the purpose of finding the TPS report to create one, and now it's off creating a brief TPS report, and it's putting in data from the past, and I can do things like say, replace 85% tier 1 shipments with 67% tier 1 shipments. It'll make the document. I can either download it or copy it, and TPS report done for the day. So as I called out those corporate savings before, it was just on searching data, but of course that's not where AI stops. That's just where we start our journey. After that, we're gleaning insights. I can summarize the report. I can get snippets from it. I can have it created. I can generate new content. So that's the tip of the iceberg in terms of enterprise savings, is just finding all the data I have access to. I can now create data, and the natural extension of this is we don't have these features in our platform now, but then we can also create bots based on this data, agents based on this data. So we can, start to actually automate some of the workflow at work, which is kind of, I would say, the last step in the AI journey for a lot of people. But just doing the first step in terms of search is an easy value proposition for many companies. So that's kind of a little demo. Any questions here about the product now that you've seen it, or anything in the presentation?
Chris, this is Paul. I'm kind of curious on where you see all this going. I mean, we've had OpenAI kind of design point to be external, kind of B2C, and they're trying to put in, I can connect to your SharePoint. Your design point is internal. Perplexity and the big ones continue to do a lot of other features around the chatbot application, the ability to, say prompts, libraries, deep research. Do you see a point where a knowledge worker might use your tool for the internal knowledge search, but then use a Perplexity or another tool for when I want to search and do deep research on the internet because you're not optimized for that? Or do you see this coming together?
Absolutely. And we have customers who ask that question. If I use NetHopper's enterprise GIA platform, do I still need to buy ChatGPT licenses at $20 a month? And the answer is, of course you can. But in this mode, if you download a good enough model, like the reasoning open source models are lagging behind OpenAI's reasoning models that you showed earlier, Paul. So if you want OpenAI for a reasoning model, keep on buying it. You know, it's only $20 a month. Go ahead. But for the most part, it also has public data, like you saw. What is a TPS report? Oh, that's a joke from Office Space. So in some ways, it is capable of doing what some of those public AIs do. If you know, you asked where do I think this is going? If I've never been at, attended a board meeting at Perplexity or OpenAI, but I imagine a lot of the topics have to do with eating Google's lunch in search and SEO and how GEO can take over, because that's a really big brass ring for those companies to unseat the monopoly that has been Google for the last couple of decades. I don't know I don't know how that compares in those board meetings to set up a system for every single one of your customers, a single tenant system, and start consuming 80 different connectors of data, of SSO data. I don't know where that'll fall on their priority list, but I think taking 5% market share from Google, I'm guessing is higher on that list.
Great. Thanks. Thanks. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, hi. I'm sort of similar to Paul's question. You asked a lot of my question, but my question is more, okay, if I want to integrate open source information from the internet with information that's given by you here from my private data, how would you advise a customer to do that? So I'll give you a concrete example. You know, let's say I want to Rosemary's point, let's say I want to understand GEO, whatever we want to call it, AI search optimization. And I also want to know if I've ever done any work like that or written anything like that in my own company. So I want both internet research and my own company research, and I'd like to merge them together because they're both relevant to the task at hand.
Yes. So you've noticed if you use chat, there's a couple of different ways to do it. There's the belt and suspenders approach where you have two window tabs open, one for ChatGPT or Grok and one for enterprise AI. But that's kind of way too belt and suspenders. If you're using ChatGPT about, I'd say 2 months ago, Anthropic announced, things are moving so quickly, they announced that their Claude service will now do an internet search. And since I've seen ChatGPT and others do it, because you can see the website pages coming up when it's thinking about what
Right.
your answer should be.
Right.
Our RAG pipeline is introducing that functionality into it. It's not quite there yet, but in a few weeks it'll be
Okay.
there where we can do the same exact thing. In addition to combing all of your data, we can also say, go out to the relevant website sources and go get that data and compare it to the document I'm writing or compare it to the TPS report I'm producing.
Yep.
Are there any conflicts? Are there any similarities?
Great. I have one more question. So I've been in this general world for a long time, and we started probably 10 plus years ago building global search engines, we would call them. So I think Lucene was the first open source one, as I recall. Now there's Elasticsearch, there's a million of them. So I'm kind of curious, and you're a good person to ask this because I'm not an expert. What's the difference in this underlying search between this kind of technology and what we used to do with what we call global search engines?
Yeah, I think the difference is the same thing that we experience when we're on our AI journey. I use ChatGPT as the poster child for public AI because I'm a chat. I pay them $20 a month. I use it every day, and I would say when I first started, I used it like a Google search, and results came back, and I learned over time that and Google search being what I'll call like an Elasticsearch or a global search engine. It came back with the data, but then I had to go read the data. And I was only one question away from saying, well, summarize it, pull out the relevant points related to X, Y, and Z. And that's something you don't get in global
Yep.
search. And that's why I think why Google's lunch has been eaten, because the search experience is just better with AI because it doesn't stop at, oh, it found what I was looking for. It keeps going with it can find the details. It's not just looking for a natural language keyword flexibility search. It's giving me the relevant parts of the data, summarizing it in my language relevant to the work I'm doing. So I think the difference between Elasticsearch and enterprise GAI search is the same between a Google search versus a ChatGPT search. You get the power of AI behind it to do more than searching as you go on your journey.
Okay, thanks.
Go ahead, Alice.
Hey, Chris, very interesting product. I'm just wondering whether you're leveraging any of these open source LLM models that specialize in data discovery and tagging, uh, model foundation like the LLM for Data or Haystack. Um, I've been working with a number of data security vendors. Some of the leading ones actually leverage these open source models that are fine-tuned for data discovery and tagging, so they and you can throw in a bunch of uh, directories and APIs. They can just go and discover and then organize, categorize the data accordingly. So that serves as a foundation that you can build from with further fine tuning and rack enhancement for the enterprise level private content, like moderation or generation.
That's interesting. I personally haven't, but I'm going to go talk to our engineering architect about that because I've been working with customers and I've been using these Olama models that are difference between Facebook and Google and others, but I haven't looked at Haystack or some of these data and discovery and tagging models, but that would be interesting to see what they can do and maybe save us time in building out a RAG pipeline to do those things if the model already does them.
Right, certainly. It sounds I'm a big believer in sort of low code, no code as wherever possible. So think of essentially if there are open models available, you can basically provide a platform that really connects to them and simply fine-tune your solution by adjusting configurations as your new features instead of actually pushing new PR for your code changes. That sort of framework that at least I've advocated that we should be thinking in mind how as we try to leverage the rich the rich foundation and ecosystem we have out there.
Absolutely. I'm a big fan of open source for lots of reasons. That one, and also for I think we don't have a dog in the fight, but there's clearly a war going on between for model supremacy.
Yep,
And there are benefactors of that war like us, where we just keep benefiting from better and better models. So if we can get some of our discovering and tagging from a haystack model, then I'm all for it.
sounds good.
Katrina's got a question in the chat. Katrina, do you want to say it or should I read it?
Sure, I can say it. So my question was, it's an interesting tool, and I'm wondering if you have an API so that I can programmatically use your tool.
Yes, everything's API driven. Everything I typed in right here has an API to it, and there's a backend database. So there's no MCP yet, but it's all API driven, so it's possible to get a programmatic interface to it.
Awesome, thank you.
Wonderful. Well, Chris, well, thank you so much. Congratulations on a great thing. And make sure I'm listening correctly. So if I'm a company and I want to get productivity and time savings for my employees, one option is to go pay $20, $30 per month for a Copilot or an OpenAI, where I am paying for consumptions and still have data going out. An alternative to that is to use more of this private AI where you're selling me a product that's sitting inside my trust framework. All my data is staying in that trust framework, and I'm not paying for token usage either per monthly cost or on a usage basis. Am I correctly saying that?
That is correct. So in our methodology, it's the buy versus lease methodology. We're not running a counter to tell you you're out of tokens. Sorry, you can't get any more AI. You just use as much as it's running 24/7. Use it as much as you can. Now, if you overuse it, you may end up getting some performance penalty, and we would scale up that cluster, and then your monthly cost would go up. But it's not like you have to figure out token math. you can keep the fixed monthly cost and stay at that. There'll be no surprise long distance bill for those of you that are old enough to have made long distance calls.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
Yes, hey, great presentation. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, I had to change from my car to my house here, so I don't know if I missed this, but how do I think about pricing? So, if I'm like, Paul and I run into, as many people on this do, different enterprises, and say I'm working with $150 million enterprise, and they say, okay, I'm thinking about this. How would this compare to a Glean and then, or a $1 billion enterprise?
Yep. So we're jury's still out, but we're seeing a sweet spot in companies that don't yet have data teams, because there's no one to go to try to build this. There's been no project to centralize data into a data lake to have, so there is a sweet spot, and you probably won't run into too many, $100 billion companies that haven't done something in terms of curating data yet. So that's one. But I would say a lot of times it's the also it has to do with first movers. I think both Glean and I, would probably Glean and us are seeing similar things that, this isn't something that you're selling to JPMC yet. This is something that you're selling to, a smaller company. But I think there's ROI, there's a value calculation you can do with them. Yeah, to make
And
their workers more productive.
Chris, I wasn't crisp enough. How much does it cost and how do you price it?
Ooh, that's crisp. So there's actually three components of cost. One is the setup fee, because it takes time to set up a system for you in your own private IT, connecting to all your users' data sources with SSO. There's some work there, some NRE work, if you will. That's number one. And for a $50 million ARR company, it's peanuts. It's not a lot of money. There's also then the ongoing fee to run that infrastructure in their cloud, and that's a fixed pass-through, no markup from us. They know what the AWS bill is. There's full transparency as to what that's running. As a matter of fact, we don't even need the creds to their AWS cluster once we're up and running. That's number two, is a fixed infrastructure cost. And number three is our per seat license cost, which grows by users. So we have a sliding scale of user prices, which if you'd like to know the details of which, let's have an offline conversation. But depending whether you have 5 users or 500 users, there's a different pricing model.
Yeah, let's have an offline conversation. I just want to be able to ballpark it. The kind of questions we're getting are, is it 20 grand? Is it 200 grand? Is it 2 million?
Yes. Yep. We can meet numbers between the bottom and middle of that range. It is possible to do. Of course, we hope for the ones at the top of that range you just mentioned, but yes, it's possible.
Well, Chris, wonderful presentation. Thank you so much. And we're delighted to have you here, and good luck on your journey. It's obviously a massive, massive, massive market opportunity, because the values in ChatGPT for my data